Ambassador Frank Donovan looked out the viewport of the shuttle as it approached the massive space station that served as the Galactic Council headquarters. The structure was unlike anything humans had built, a gleaming marvel that stretched for miles, orbiting the neutral planet of SciFiPrime. Frank adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform and took a deep breath. As Earth's first official envoy to the Council, he carried the hopes and dreams of billions of humans on his shoulders. Approaching Docking Bay 7, the pilot announced. "Ambassador, we'll be landing in 5 minutes." Frank nodded and reviewed his notes one final time. Earth had only recently discovered faster-than-light travel, making humanity the newest species to join the interstellar community. Many on Earth viewed this as their greatest achievement, but Frank knew that several elder alien races saw humans as dangerous upstarts who had developed too quickly. The shuttle docked with a soft thud, and Frank gathered his materials. His mission was clear: secure Earth's provisional membership in the Galactic Council and establish peaceful trade relations. Simple objectives on paper, but politically complex in reality. Captain Lisa Reeves watched from the bridge of the Earth Defense Force vessel Defiance as the diplomatic shuttle disappeared into the massive docking bay of the Council station. "Maintain orbit and standard defensive posture," she ordered her crew. "Remember, we observe only. No matter what happens, we do not intervene without direct orders from Earth Command." Lisa had served with Frank on previous missions. He was a skilled diplomat with a genuine belief in cooperation between species. She hoped that would be enough. Her orders were clear: maintain position, monitor communications, and be ready to extract the ambassador if necessary. The diplomatic mission was too important to risk any misunderstandings. What neither Lisa nor Frank realized was that they were walking into a carefully orchestrated trap inside the Council station. Frank was greeted by a reception committee of various alien representatives. The Council chamber itself was overwhelming in its massive scale, designed to accommodate representatives from over 300 spacefaring civilizations. Species of all descriptions filled the tiered seating: the crystalline Aldorians, whose bodies refracted light in hypnotic patterns; the gaseous Vril, contained in special environmental suits; the hive-mind phalanx, represented by 3 identical hosts; and dozens more beyond human comprehension. Frank was shown to the human delegation area, a small platform near the bottom of the chamber. The message was clear: Earth was a newcomer, the lowest in the hierarchy. "Ambassador Donovan," a melodic voice called. Frank turned to see a tall, blue-skinned humanoid approaching. "I am Representative Kalen of the Meridian Alliance. We are pleased to welcome humanity to these proceedings." Frank smiled and extended his hand, then quickly withdrew it, remembering the Council protocol against physical contact between species. "Thank you for the welcome. Earth is honored to be considered for membership." Kalen's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Many here are curious about humans. Your species has advanced remarkably quickly from planetary travel to faster-than-light technology. Some find this ... concerning." Frank had been briefed about this. Several elder species had been monitoring Earth for centuries, growing increasingly alarmed at humanity's rapid technological advancement and historical propensity for violence. "We understand those concerns," Frank replied carefully. That's why we come openly, seeking cooperation rather than competition. Earth has much to learn from the Council's collective wisdom." Kalen seemed pleased with this response. "The proceedings will begin shortly. I suggest you prepare your opening statement." As Kalen moved away, Frank noticed a cluster of tall, gray-skinned aliens watching him intently. Their black eyes showed no emotion, but their body language suggested hostility. These were the Zelvans, an ancient empire known for their conservative stance on admitting new species. The Zelvan Imperium had been pushing for human containment protocols before Earth developed interstellar capabilities. Frank made a mental note to approach them carefully during the negotiations. Back on the Defiance, Lisa received the first secure transmission from Frank's neural implant. Old diplomats carried these devices, allowing them to send encrypted updates without obvious communication devices. Council chamber is impressive but intimidating, Frank's message read. Definite tensions present. Zelvins seem particularly opposed to our presence, beginning formal introductions soon. Lisa forwarded the message to Earth Command, then ordered increased monitoring of Council communications. Something about this mission felt wrong, but she couldn't pinpoint why. The Defiance maintained a quantum link to Frank. Ready to extract him if necessary, the formal council session began with a procession of the High Chancellors, 7 representatives from the founding species of the council. They took positions at the elevated central platform, looking down at the assembled delegates. We welcome all representatives to this 4,587th session of the Galactic Council, announced the lead chancellor, a reptilian being named Zexer from the Zelvan Imperium. Today we have several matters to discuss, including the petition from the species known as humans for provisional membership. Frank stood as protocol required. The enormous chamber fell silent as thousands of alien eyes focused on him. Esteemed Chancellors, honored representatives, he began, his voice steady despite his nerves. I bring greetings from Earth and all humanity. We come seeking friendship and mutual benefit through peaceful exchange of knowledge and resources. Frank continued his carefully prepared speech, emphasizing humanity's desire to learn and contribute positively to the galactic community. As he spoke, he noticed subtle shifts in the room. Some delegates leaned forward with interest, while others, particularly the Zelvins, seemed to grow more rigid. When Frank finished, Chancellor Zexer spoke. The Council acknowledges the human petition. As is customary, we will conduct a thorough review of your species' history and technological capabilities before voting on provisional status. What Frank didn't know was that the review had already been completed, and the Zelvins had already decided Earth's fate. The coming days would appear productive, but it was all an elaborate show before the trap would spring shut. As Frank returned to his assigned quarters that evening, he sent another update to the Defiance. Initial reception mixed but not hostile. Formal negotiations begin tomorrow. Cautiously optimistic. Captain Lisa Reeves read the message and tried to shake off her growing sense of dread. Something was very wrong, but with no evidence, she could only watch and wait, maintaining the silent vigil above Centauri Prime as humanity's future hung in the balance. 3 days passed with Frank attending various council sessions that seemed productive on the surface. Many species showed genuine interest in human culture, art, and science. Frank found himself explaining everything from Earth music to farming techniques to curious alien delegates. The council had agreed to consider Earth's petition for provisional membership, and preliminary trade routes were being discussed. Frank felt increasingly hopeful as he prepared for what was scheduled as a routine session on the 4th day. Frank's daily reports to the Defiance remained cautiously positive. Several council members have expressed interest in human adaptability and problem-solving, he noted in his latest update. Even detected some humor from the Meridian representative. Progress is slow but steady. Captain Lisa Reeves reviewed these reports with growing unease. The mission was going too smoothly. In her experience, new species faced more resistance when seeking council membership. She ordered her communications officer to monitor all council channels more closely. Something doesn't feel right, she told her first officer, Jack Monroe. The Zelvins especially. Their public statements remain neutral, but their fleet movements near Earth trade routes have increased. Jack nodded. I've noticed that too. Their battle cruisers have been running exercises just outside the Council security zone. Could be routine, but the timing seems suspicious. Lisa decided to send a coded message to Earth Defense Command, flagging her concerns while maintaining the mission's official positive status. Inside the Grand Council chamber, Frank took his seat as the session began. The agenda mentioned only minor trade agreements and cultural exchange protocols. Nothing suggested what was about to happen. High Chancellor Zexer of the Zelvan Imperium rose from his seat, his gray skin gleaming under the chamber lights. Honored representatives, he began, his voice echoing through the vast space. Before we proceed with scheduled matters, I must call for an emergency vote on a matter of galactic security. Murmurs spread through the chamber as Zexer activated the central projection system. Three-dimensional images appeared, showing what appeared to be Earth military installations. These images were captured by our intelligence networks, Zexer announced. They show without doubt that humans have been developing forbidden planet-killer weapons while pretending to seek peaceful relations. Frank stood immediately. This is absurd. Those are standard defense platforms, not offensive weapons. Earth has no planet-killer technology. Zexer continued as if Frank hadn't spoken. Furthermore, we have intercepted communications proving Earth plans to expand aggressively into Council space once granted access to our trade routes. The chamber erupted in shocked conversations. Frank tried to speak again, but his microphone had been deactivated. He realized with growing horror that this had been planned from the beginning. The evidence was clearly fabricated, but many Council species were reacting with alarm on the defiance. Lisa watched the feed from Frank's neural implant with increasing concern. "Get me a secure channel to Earth Command now," she ordered. "And, prepare for emergency extraction protocols." Before her crew could comply, Council security drones surrounded Frank in the chamber. The quantum link captured everything: Frank's protests, the Zelvan guards approaching, and Chancellor Zexer calling for an immediate trial. Under Emergency Security Protocol 7 Alpha, the Council may conduct immediate proceedings when faced with clear evidence of hostile intent, Zexer announced. Does any representative object to this procedure? A few delegates looked uncomfortable, but none dared to challenge the powerful Zelvan Chancellor. Frank realized he was trapped in a perfectly orchestrated show trial. "I demand to speak with my ship's captain," Frank said firmly. "As Earth's representative, I have diplomatic immunity under your own laws." Zexer's mouth formed what might have been a smile on his alien face. Diplomatic immunity applies only to recognized Council members. Earth status remains pending and now permanently denied. The trial proceeded with shocking speed. Fabricated. Evidence piled up while Frank's attempts to defend Earth were repeatedly cut short. Several species known to be Zelvan allies presented additional testimony about human aggression and duplicity. Captain Lisa watched helplessly as the farce unfolded. "We need to extract him now," she told her officers. "Prepare a stealth shuttle." Jack shook his head grimly. "The Council station has activated their defense grid. Any approach would be detected and destroyed before we could reach the docking bay." Lisa slammed her fist on the console. "Then we need to warn Earth immediately. This isn't just about Frank anymore. This is a prelude to something bigger." On the Council station, the sham trial concluded after barely an hour. Chancellor Zexer stood to deliver the verdict. "The evidence is conclusive. Earth has violated the most sacred principles of peaceful coexistence. This Council finds the human species guilty of developing prohibited weapons technology and planning aggressive expansion. As punishment, their representative shall be executed immediately as a warning to Earth's leadership." Frank stood tall. Despite the shock, he understood now that this had been the plan from the beginning. The Zelvans had never intended to welcome humanity into the galactic community. They feared Earth's rapid advancement and had orchestrated this entire scenario to justify aggressive action against humanity. As security drones surrounded him, Frank activated his emergency neural transmitter, sending his final data packet to the Defiance. The quantum link would ensure that Earth received complete records of the proceedings, along with his personal code. Protocol Omega active. "You're making a terrible mistake," Frank told Zexer calmly. "Earth came in peace, but we are not defenseless. There will be consequences for this betrayal." Zexer dismissed Frank's warning with a wave. "Your primitive species has no concept of the power arrayed against it. This execution will be broadcast to your leaders as a demonstration of what awaits those who threaten galactic stability." The guards dragged Frank toward the execution chamber. Several delegates turned away, unwilling to watch but equally unwilling to object. Representative Kalen of the Meridian Alliance made a small gesture of protest, but was quickly silenced by Zelvan guards. In Earth's defense headquarters, General Samantha Wright received the emergency signal from the Defiance and watched in horror as the quantum link transmitted the entire proceeding in real time. Her face drained of color as she viewed Frank, being led to the execution chamber. The last transmission from Frank contained 3 words that would change the course of human history. Protocol Omega active. Lisa ordered the Defiance to break orbit immediately. Maximum speed toward Earth. We need to get this evidence home before they come after us. As the ship accelerated away from Centauri Prime, Council warships began pursuit. The first phase of a carefully planned Zelvin trap had been sprung. What they didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for this possibility all along. The United Nations Security Council gathered in emergency session as the terrible news spread through Earth's leadership. The massive screen at the front of the chamber showed the final moments of Ambassador Frank Donovan's life, recorded through his neural implant and transmitted by the Defiance. The room fell silent as the footage ended. No one spoke for several long seconds. President Eric Coleman finally broke the silence. The Galactic Council has declared war on humanity through this action. The execution of our envoy under diplomatic protection is a violation of every principle they claim to uphold. General Samantha Wright stood at attention beside the main display. The Defiance is currently attempting to return to Earth space. They are being pursued by Council warships and have suffered damage. Captain Reeves reports they may not make it back. What about the Annihilation Protocol? Asked Defense Secretary Paul Bennett. That's what Donovan activated in his final message. The room grew even more quiet. The Annihilation Protocol was a classified contingency plan that only the highest levels of government knew existed. It had been developed in secret for exactly this scenario, a direct and overwhelming hostile action by the Galactic Council. Against Earth, get me Dr. Rogers, President Coleman ordered. Immediately, while they waited, reports continued to flow in. Council ships had been detected at the edges of the solar system. Several Earth outposts in nearby systems had gone silent. This was not just about the execution of one man. It was the beginning of a coordinated attack. Dr. Alan Rogers arrived 15 minutes later. He was a thin man with tired eyes who looked like he hadn't slept in days. As the lead scientist of Project Prometheus, he carried knowledge that few on Earth possessed. The Annihilation Protocol has 3 phases, Dr. Rogers explained to the grim-faced leaders. For 15 years, my team has been developing technologies that the rest of humanity wasn't ready to know about. We've reverse-engineered crashed alien vessels and made theoretical physics, breakthroughs that have put us decades ahead of what we publicly acknowledge. He activated a secure holographic display showing a map of known Council space. First, we deploy quantum disruptor satellites at strategic points throughout their territory. These devices were placed in key locations by our trade ships over the past 3 years, disguised as standard navigation beacons. The map highlighted dozens of points where these hidden weapons waited. Second, we activate our distributed consciousness network, allowing us to predict and counter any Council strategy in real time. Third, we release specialized Nanite swarms programmed to target only Council military assets. Secretary Bennett looked skeptical. How could we have built this without anyone knowing? The Antarctic facility, General Wright said quietly. The one that officially conducts climate research? Dr. Rogers nodded. That's our primary development site, but we have others. We've been preparing for this possibility since we first detected alien signals 50 years ago. President Coleman paced the length of the room. The question before us is clear. Do we sue for peace knowing they planned this betrayal from the beginning? Or do we activate the protocol and show them that humanity will not be so easily eliminated? On the main screen, a new alert appeared. The Defiance was under heavy fire at the edge of the solar system. Captain Reeves' face appeared, her bridge filled with smoke and emergency lighting. We won't make it home, she reported calmly despite the chaos around her. Council ships have us surrounded. But we will buy you time to prepare Earth's defenses. An explosion rocked her ship and the transmission became unstable. Make them pay for what they did to Frank. Defiance out. The transmission cut to static as the brave ship made its final stand. President Coleman looked at each person in the room before speaking again. The decision is made. Activate the Annihilation Protocol, all phases. Dr. Rogers immediately began entering authorization codes into his secure terminal. Phase 1 initiating. Quantum disruptors activating in 5 minutes. Meanwhile, the Council, believing they had neutralized the human threat, continued their plans. High Chancellor Zexer addressed the full Council, many of whom had been disturbed by the swift execution of the human envoy. The human threat has been contained, he assured them. Their primitive weapons are no match for our combined fleets. We will secure their solar system and ensure they never again threaten galactic stability. Several representatives from more peaceful species registered. Formal protests about the handling of Ambassador Donovan, but these were quickly dismissed. The Zelvan military had already taken control of Council security forces and positioned their fleets for the invasion of Earth. What none of them realized was the true purpose of previous human diplomatic missions. While Frank had been the first official envoy, dozens of trade delegations had visited Council space over the past 3 years. Each had covertly placed dormant technological packages throughout Council territory, back on Earth. Military forces worldwide went on high alert. Civilian populations were moved to hardened shelters built over the past decade under the guise of climate change preparations. The truth was, Earth's governments had been quietly preparing for this day. In a secure bunker beneath the Pentagon, Dr. Rogers monitored the activation of the quantum disruptors. Phase 1 complete. Council faster than light. Communications should be disabled across 80% of their territory now. General Wright nodded. Phase 2? The distributed consciousness network is coming online, Dr. Rogers confirmed. We're already seeing results. Council fleet movements are being predicted with 97% accuracy. The network was Earth's most closely guarded secret, a quantum computing system that could process and analyze data at speeds no organic mind could match. It had been designed specifically to counter the tactical advantages of the older Council species. In orbit around Earth. Defense platforms that had been disguised as weather satellites revealed their true purpose, deploying advanced weapon systems. The planet's magnetic field strengthened as hidden generators came online, creating a shield against Council energy weapons. President Coleman addressed the United Nations General Assembly, revealing to the world the existence of the Annihilation Protocol and the true nature of the Council's betrayal. For years we have maintained a facade of technological inferiority while preparing for this day, he explained to the shocked representatives. Ambassador Donovan's execution was not an impulsive act, but part of a planned assault on our species. Today we show the galaxy that humanity will not go quietly into extinction. As the President spoke, Captain Reeves and the crew of the Defiance made their final stand at the edge of the solar system. Outnumbered 10-1, they fought with everything they had, delaying the Council fleet long enough for Earth's defenses to fully activate. Their last transmission was broadcast to every human settlement and ship. This is Captain Lisa Reeves of the EDF Defiance. We stand for Earth, we stand for humanity. Make them pay for their treachery. The Defiance exploded in a blinding flash, taking 3 Council warships with it. But unknown to the Council forces, the human vessel had released thousands of microscopic probes in its final moments. These probes attached to the hulls of enemy ships, gathering intelligence and preparing for Phase 3 of the protocol. The Annihilation had begun. The first sign of Earth's retaliation came without warning throughout Council space. On hundreds of worlds, the quantum disruption fields activated simultaneously. Council ships in mid-jump suddenly found themselves thrown back into normal space. Their faster-than-light drives disabled. Communication networks that had linked the 300 species for centuries went silent, leaving each world isolated and confused. In the Council chambers on SciFiPrime, panic spread as reports filtered in from across the galaxy. High Chancellor Zexer demanded explanations that no one could provide. How had the primitive humans deployed such advanced technology without detection? Impossible, he muttered as his advisors presented the growing list of affected systems. Their technology was at least a century behind our own. We monitored their development closely. An aide approached nervously. Chancellor, we have lost contact with the invasion fleet. The last report indicated they had destroyed a human vessel, but that all communication ceased. Zexer slammed his fist on the console. Find out what is happening. Deploy scout ships, if necessary. But the Zelvan ships that left SciFiPrime found themselves unable to activate their jump drives once they cleared the atmosphere. Something was interfering with the very laws of physics that made interstellar travel possible on Earth. Dr. Olivia Martinez monitored the effects of the quantum disruptors with grim satisfaction. As the lead engineer for Phase 1 of the protocol, she had designed the devices to target the specific frequency ranges used by Council technology. Disruption field at 98% effectiveness, she reported to General Wright. Council faster-than-light travel has been disabled across all major systems. Their fleets are stranded wherever they were when the field activated. General Wright nodded. Proceed with Phase 3. Dr. Martinez hesitated only briefly before entering the command codes. Phase 3 was the most aggressive aspect of the Annihilation protocol, the release of the nanite swarms. These microscopic machines had been designed with a single purpose: target and dismantle Council military technology molecule by molecule. Major William Foster led the first offensive strike team in the newly unveiled X-class stealth vessels. These ships, utilizing technology decades ahead of what Earth had publicly acknowledged, slipped through the disabled Council defenses with ease. Their mission: target and eliminate the military leadership responsible for Donovan's execution. Approaching SciFiPrime, Foster reported as his squadron of 5 ships entered the system. No sign of detection. Council defense systems appear to be in disarray. Unlike conventional warships, the X-class vessels were nearly invisible to standard sensors. They had been built in secret orbital facilities disguised as asteroid mining operations. Each carried enough firepower to level a small city, but their real advantage was their stealth capability. Foster's primary target was the Zelvan military headquarters adjacent to the Council chambers. Intelligence from the probes released by the Defiance had confirmed that Chancellor Zexer and his top commanders were gathered there, coordinating their response to the crisis. All ships, prepare precision strikes, Foster ordered. Remember, we target military assets only. Civilian areas are to be avoided at all costs. The X-class vessels moved into position around the massive space station. At Foster's command, they fired simultaneously. Beams of concentrated energy sliced through the station's outer defenses like they were made of paper. The Zelvan shields, considered impenetrable by Council standards, failed within seconds inside the Council chambers. Representatives from dozens of species watched in horror as sections of the station began to come apart. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, but many failed as systems malfunctioned throughout the structure. "We are under attack," shouted a Zelvan security officer. "Human vessels have penetrated our defenses." Chancellor Zexer could barely comprehend what he was hearing. Impossible. Their ships could never reach SciFiPrime, let alone breach our defenses. But the evidence was undeniable as explosions rocked the station. The carefully targeted strikes avoided the main Council chamber but systematically destroyed the military. Command centers and weapon emplacements. Meanwhile, across Council space, the nanite swarms began their work. Released from dormant states by the signal from Earth, they spread through military installations and weapons platforms, targeting only specific molecular structures used in Council weapons technology on the Zelvan homeworld. Military leaders watched in horror as their prized battlecruisers began to disintegrate in orbit. The process was not explosive or violent. The ships simply began to come apart, piece by piece, as the invisible nanites broke down their component materials. "What is happening?" demanded the Zelvan Supreme Commander as his flagship literally dissolved around him. The crew evacuated in escape pods, watching helplessly as the once mighty vessel crumbled into dust. Similar scenes played out across Council space. The nanites had been programmed with incredible precision. They ignored civilian structures and vessels, focusing only on military technology. This selective destruction sent a clear message. Earth could have chosen total annihilation, but was exercising restraint. The council species that had voted against Donovan's execution found transmissions from Earth appearing in their secure channels. The messages were simple: stand down and declare neutrality. You will not be targeted. Many accepted immediately, recognizing the technological gulf they hadn't believed possible. Within hours, nearly 40 species had declared themselves neutral. In the conflict between Earth and the Zelvin-led Council forces, back on Earth, President Coleman received regular updates on the protocol's progress. The Zelvin military capability has been reduced by 60%, reported General Wright. Their communication and faster-than-light travel remain disabled. Major Foster's team has successfully neutralized the military command structure on SciFiPrime. Coleman nodded gravely. And civilian casualties? Minimal, Wright assured him. The precision of our strikes and the selectivity of the nanites have kept civilian deaths under 1,000, mostly from secondary effects like loss of life support in some sections of the council station. That's 1,000 too many, Coleman said quietly. But compared to what they planned for Earth, we've shown remarkable restraint. The council representatives, now effectively stranded on SciFiPrime, called an emergency session. Chancellor Zexer was conspicuously absent. Having been captured by Foster's team during their strike on the military headquarters, Representative Kalin of the Meridian Alliance took the central podium. We must face the truth. We grievously underestimated humanity, and some among us engineered a terrible injustice against them. The execution of Ambassador Donovan was not just a crime against humans, but against the principles this council was founded upon. Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. The surviving Zelvin representatives remained silent, their power and influence shattered in a matter of hours. I move that we send a delegation to Earth, Kalin continued. Not to negotiate their surrender, as was planned just days ago, but to beg for our own. The humans have demonstrated both overwhelming power and remarkable restraint. They could have destroyed us entirely, but chose targeted strikes against those who wronged them. The vote was unanimous. The Galactic Council, which had existed for over 2,000 years, acknowledged its defeat at the hands of the species it had dismissed as primitive just days before. As the nanite swarms continued their work throughout Council space, the message became clear: a new power had emerged in the galaxy and the old order had fallen. 6 weeks after Ambassador Donovan's execution, the galactic landscape had transformed beyond recognition. The Council headquarters on SciFiPrime stood nearly empty, its grand chambers silent except for the small delegation that remained to coordinate the peace process. The Zelvin Imperium, once the dominant force in the galaxy, had been reduced to a handful of refugee fleets, their military might completely dismantled by the nanite swarms. General Samantha Wright stood aboard the new flagship Donovan's Legacy, watching as representatives from 30 former council species arrived for the peace conference. The massive vessel had been constructed in secret before the conflict and now served as neutral ground for the negotiations. They're arriving on schedule, reported her aide, Lieutenant Kelly Barnes. Security scans show no weapons or unauthorized technology. Wright nodded. Good. Escort the representatives to the conference chamber once they've all docked. The general still found it hard to believe how quickly the galaxy's power structure had shifted. For centuries, the Zelvins and their allies had maintained control through their supposed technological superiority. That illusion had been shattered in less than 2 months. In the main conference chamber, President Coleman waited with Earth's delegation. The room had been designed to accommodate all known species, with environmental controls that could adjust to any biological need. It was another demonstration of how much humanity had secretly learned about their galactic neighbors. They're frightened, Coleman observed as the alien representatives filed into the chamber. We need to show them that humanity did not want this war, that we still seek peaceful cooperation. Dr. Rogers, who had overseen the Annihilation Protocol's implementation, looked troubled. Some of them participated in Donovan's execution. They stood by and did nothing. And they've paid for that mistake, Coleman replied firmly. Now we must decide what kind of galactic power we want to be. One that rules through fear, or one that leads through cooperation? The meeting began with a moment of silence for all. Those lost in the conflict, including Ambassador Donovan and the crew of the Defiance. Then President Coleman addressed the gathered representatives. Humanity did not want this war, he told them, his voice carrying throughout the chamber. We came to you in peace, offering friendship and cooperation. That offer remains open to those who choose to accept it. Representative Kalin of the Meridian Alliance stepped forward as the chosen speaker for the former council species. We acknowledge the great wrong done to humanity. The execution of your envoy violated our most sacred principles. Many of us failed to stand against injustice when we should have spoken. For this we ask forgiveness, Coleman nodded gravely. What happened cannot be undone. Ambassador Donovan and the brave crew of the Defiance can never be brought back. But we can build something new from this tragedy. Over the next 3 days, the foundation was laid for a new interstellar organization to replace the failed council. It would be called the Interstellar Concordat, based on principles of genuine equality among species, rather than the hierarchical structure that had allowed the Zelvins to dominate for so long. Earth, once dismissed as a primitive backwater, now stood as the technological and military center of known space. But President Coleman and his advisors were determined not to repeat the mistakes of the Zelvins. Our power gives us responsibility, Coleman told the gathered delegates on the final day of negotiations. We will not impose our will on peaceful species. We ask only that the rights of all sentient beings be respected and that diplomatic immunity be treated as truly inviolable. The most controversial moment came when Dr. Rogers and his team revealed the truth to humanity's new allies. Earth had discovered the ruins of an ancient human-like civilization on Mars decades earlier. This discovery had accelerated technological development far beyond what anyone had suspected. We kept this secret because we detected council probes in our system and understood the risk, Dr. Rogers explained. The artifacts we found contained knowledge that allowed us to develop defenses we hope never to use. Some representatives were angry at this revelation, but most understood the caution that had driven humanity's secrecy. The Zelvins had monitored Earth for centuries with the intention of preventing humans from ever becoming a galactic power. As the conference concluded, the remains of Chancellor Zexer's government faced trial for war crimes. The evidence from Ambassador Donovan's neural implant clearly showed the premeditated nature of his execution and the planned invasion of Earth. That would have followed. In a solemn ceremony at the United Nations headquarters in New York, a memorial was dedicated to Ambassador Frank Donovan and the crew of the Defiance. The central monument displayed Donovan's final recorded words before his execution. If humanity stands for anything, it's that we protect our own. Today you've made an enemy you cannot comprehend. Those words had proven prophetic in ways the Council could never have imagined. The remaining Council species had learned the most important lesson in their collective history. Humans were willing to extend friendship with open hands, but those same hands could form fists that brought unprecedented destruction when betrayed. Captain Lisa Reeves' daughter, Nicole, stood before the assembled dignitaries at the memorial ceremony. At 28, she had just been appointed as Earth's new ambassador to the Concordat, following in the footsteps of both her mother and Frank Donovan. My mother and Ambassador Donovan believed in peaceful cooperation between species, she told the crowd. They gave their lives for that belief. The best way to honor their sacrifice is to build the peaceful galaxy they envisioned, while never forgetting the price of betrayal. Behind closed doors, humanity's leaders faced a new question. Having demonstrated their power, how would they wield it? The Annihilation Protocol had been designed as a last resort, but its success presented a temptation toward dominance that echoed humanity's own troubled history. Dr. Martinez, who had designed the nanite swarms, argued for maintaining Earth's technological edge. We should continue development. Other threats may emerge, and we need to be ready. General Wright disagreed. The secrecy was necessary when we were vulnerable. Now we need transparency. Share our knowledge with our allies, build trust instead of fear. President Coleman listened to both arguments before making his decision. We will maintain our defenses, but we will also share certain technologies with trusted allies. Our power gives us responsibility. The galaxy will judge us not by our capacity for vengeance, but by our capacity for mercy and victory. As the first ships of the new Concordat fleet took to the stars, they carried human and alien crews working side by side. The execution of a single human envoy had changed the course of galactic history, proving that humanity would defend its own with terrible efficiency when threatened, but would offer genuine peace to those who chose cooperation over conflict. On the bridge of the flagship Donovan's Legacy, Ambassador Nicole Reeves looked out at the stars and whispered, "We did it, Mom. We made them pay, and then we made them friends. I think you and Frank would be proud."